Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Ask Dr. Zaino Live. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate all of you. I can see dozens of people online already waiting for us and waiting to get started with another great show. If you're watching live from chirothoughtleaders.com/ask-dr-Zaino, that's where we're here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. and that's where we're live. And you'll notice below the live video is a little segment of social media links that we want you to make sure you click, follow us, like us, Google Plus us, tweet, share, pin it, all of those great things. Let your colleagues know that you're on here right now. Right below that is the chat roll. Please go ahead and put your name, where you're listening from, give us a comment, and even more importantly, give us a question or two as we go through here. I'm going to be monitoring this chat, so every question that you ask, I'll make sure that that it gets to the appropriate person and that it gets answered. All right. Now, that being said, we have a very, very special guest for you tonight, and Jordan Rubin. I'll just go ahead and throw the name out there. I know most of you, if not all of you, have heard of Jordan Rubin. He is just phenomenal when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to organic, when it comes to supplements. And he was on here a couple of weeks ago talking about his new bone broth protein, which has been huge. Everybody has really enjoyed it, and it's been highly successful. So we have Deb, his associate, on here, who, if you got my email, you'll know that you were to send your questions to her, which you did. We have several questions that they're going to get to and they're going to answer for you tonight. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Deb, turn it over to her, and let her start with some of the important questions that we have tonight. Deb, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Dr. Tabor. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, it's an honor to have you guys on the show. We really do appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you. And we have had a tremendous response to the bone broth protein. And Jordan, we've got some really great questions here from the crew. So let's jump right in. The first one is, how does the protein in the bone broth protein compare to whey protein and plant-based protein powders?
It's a great question. And what's interesting, despite the fact that whey protein and plant protein seem completely opposite, there's a lot of similarities to dietary dairy protein, meat protein, egg protein, whey protein, seed, legume, and nut protein, so rice protein, pea protein, hemp protein. All of those proteins are very rich in an amino acid called methionine. And I believe today we have an extreme level in America of methionine dominance, which means not only are we consuming too much protein in many instances, but too much of the same type of protein. What's unique about the protein found in bone broth or in joints, ligaments, and connective tissue of animals is the high levels of proline and glycine, which are really, really important. So methionine is good for building muscles. Proline and glycine is good for building joints, ligaments, connective tissue, bone, skin, the lining of your gut, etc. The key is balance. So if you look at omega or essential fatty acids, it's the same thing. Our diet likely provides too much omega-6 and not enough omega-3. The amino acid deficiency we have is virtually identical. And why? The same reason as the omegas. Our diet today is processed and different than that of our ancestors. So I believe a key to health for you and me is to consume more proline and glycine as well as glutamine and others, because the proteins in bone broth actually help to detoxify the body, creating glutathione, and it's the glue that holds your body together from the gut to the skin to the bones and the joints. Now back to the question. I believe that bone broth and bone broth protein can function pre-workout, during workout, and post-workout because of the amino acids and the minerals in something called serum-soluble form. So if you look at these serum-soluble nutrients, that means they're dissolved in solution, and they immediately go to work in your body. So I believe that while bone broth protein doesn't contain high levels of branched chain amino acids, it doesn't contain a lot of methionine, what it does allow is for more workouts, less time off the field, off the court, out of the gym. So if you think about it this way, protein doesn't build muscle. Resistance training does, right? Putting stress on the muscles causes the muscles to build. The tearing down, the building up. Protein can be a fuel for that, but I believe that when your connective tissue, joints, ligaments, and tendons are in good shape, they're protected, you actually can be in the gym more and less time missed due to soreness, shoulder, knee, etc. And that's why I had a friend who is into nutrition, avid consumer of organic plant proteins, developed leaky gut, stopped consuming plant protein, went on bone broth protein, and tells me he put on muscle because he is able to digest it, utilize it, and just get to his workout more. I had another friend who said, despite being a personal trainer, he couldn't do pull-ups for years. Now, for the first time after 3 weeks of taking bone broth protein, due to improved shoulder mobility and flexibility, he can now do pull-ups again. So it really can indirectly transform your body from the inside out.
Wow, you're just reminding me, Jordan, I had not mentioned this to you, but a friend of mine had a problem with parasites recently and lost 35 pounds. He could not gain it back. He's vegan and just recently started using the bone broth protein, and within about a month he's gained back about 28 pounds. And he's convinced that his body just really needed that. He didn't really want to hear that he was going to be consuming even chicken bone broth, but very pleased with the results. Interesting.
Well, if you don't mind me asking one of my own questions here, what is I mean, we all know bone broth is extremely healthy. We know, that most all of us supplement protein if we work out. But what is bone broth protein? I mean, is that like a mixture of the two, or how does that work exactly? How do you, if that's even a question that you can answer? I'm just kind of wondering. Some of the people on here might be wondering that.
It's a great question. Bone broth protein is essentially the extracted concentrated nutrients found in properly prepared bone broth. So the idea is that the bone broth is created to optimize collagen, chondroitin, glucosamine, hyaluronic acid, and minerals. And what's interesting is I give seminars all around the country and I sign books afterwards, and often people will ask me, Jordan, what do I take for this? What do I do for that? I've never had a product, and I've developed hundreds, that I recommended to every single person, no matter how young, how old, how sick, how well, because I believe we are all deficient in the nutrients of bone broth. So essentially, Dr. Tabor, bone broth protein is the best of bone broth in an easy, tasty, convenient form. And what's great is comes in pure turmeric, vanilla, and chocolate. I know people say chocolate and vanilla, that's so weird. We get rave reviews of making bone broth protein smoothies, but we also get rave reviews for bone broth protein green juices. It actually makes the green juice absorb more slowly so the sugars don't get into your system quick. Bone broth infused coffee, how could you do that before? You're not going to put 16 ounces of bone broth in coffee. So that's been amazing. You can create bone broth main dishes. Check this out. People are concerned about grains because they're high in carbs, low in protein. You can make quinoa, and in the cooking water you can add a scoop of bone broth protein, pure or turmeric, and have 20 grams of protein in your quinoa, in your brown rice, and it tastes amazing. You believe it or not, you can make sweet smoothies. People make bone broth protein ice cream. I believe that everyone listening and their patients would benefit from 1, if not 3, servings of bone broth protein a day, because that's how deficient we are. And people ask me, Jordan, are you saying bone broth or proteins from broths are the only proteins I should consume? Absolutely not. But since you're already likely eating meat and eggs, maybe dairy, perhaps grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes, why supplement with the same stuff you're eating?
Good
Bone
point.
broth should not be the only protein you're consuming, but in my opinion, it should be the only protein you're supplementing with because you're missing it. And if you're watching and you're saying, I make my bone broth, oh really? Do you consume 3 cups a day consistently? I certainly didn't, and I've written books with sections about bone broth. I've recommended bone broth. So as all of us know, you could have the best protocols in the world. They are all subject to people's compliance. Bone broth protein allows you to have great compliance. Even on a recent trip, I was gone for 8 days, and normally I rent an Airbnb or stay at an extended stay so I can cook. I couldn't do that here. Not only do I typically miss bone broth when I'm on the road, but when you're in a standard hotel, no shot. In this case, we just introduced bone broth protein, and I had 2 to 3 servings of bone broth protein a day, come rain or come shine, which is the equivalent of multiple cups of bone broth, only with less sodium and more nutrition. So this is a bold statement. I actually believe bone broth protein is more effective than bone broth because it has more of what you want and less of what you don't.
Nice. I love that. And you're absolutely right when it comes to, what's the word, the patient actually doing compliance, like you mentioned, because I put this in we have a pure food workshop that we do, and I have a section that is my secret weapons. You know, if you're really trying to boost your health, if you're really trying to get over something, one of the secret weapons is bone broth. It's like, you know, that's just so powerful. And in this last one that I did on Monday, I was able to introduce, you know, and tell them about bone broth protein, because I know 99% of people, even though they go, okay, I'll write that down, bone broth is great for me, they're not going to go home and do all the things that they need to do to make that. So anyway, I appreciate that. I appreciate your answer. I'm going to turn that back over to Deb.
Great. Somewhat related to the question you just covered, Jordan, is just earlier this evening I received a question from a doctor who has several patients who are athletic, and they're questioning the doctor as far as they're thinking that whey protein is really the only type that will be digested easily and assimilated into their body. You kind of addressed that, but bone broth protein is obviously very easy to digest, correct?
Remember, as I mentioned, bone broth protein is in serum soluble form. So just for example, today I felt like having it warm. So I had 3 servings of bone broth protein turmeric warm. If you put it in a shaker cup, it will completely dissolve in solution, and for hours it'll look just like broth. Now whey protein is pretty good to dissolve in solution, but whey protein is not even close to a food. Whey protein is a byproduct of a byproduct. Bone broth protein is really a food. It's something we've been consuming for thousands of years. And here's all I have to say about whey protein. Not only does whey come from milk, which is a top allergen, but I would challenge you to consume bone broth protein for a day, 3 days, a week, or a month. I would even suggest that you take a picture of your face in addition to your body, because not only am I so confident that bone broth is going to transform your skeletal system, but I believe your skin, hair, and nails are going to have amazing benefits. Deb, I don't know about you, but my nails and my kids' nails are growing like crazy because bone broth contains nutrients that build connective tissue. Skin, hair, and nails is part of it. So I absolutely disagree that whey protein is the only protein to provide results. As I said, bone broth protein supports healthy inflammation response. That means joints, ligaments, and tendons. You can get in the gym more, I believe, which will actually build more muscle than the protein powder you consume.
Great, thank you.
If you don't mind, we do have, and I know that these are the same questions that Deb's questions were actually Chiro Thought Leader questions that were emailed into her, but we do have a live question here. We'll jump to.
Sure.
Dr. Tossi, he says, great info. Let's see, we have, is that me? That's, yeah. You guys hearing that echo?
No.
Okay. Dr. Tossi says, great info. He says the chicken used in the product is not organic, correct? Chicken is definitely one thing that you should eat organic. He says, I'm still taking the product, but wanted to know your thoughts on that. Thanks.
That is a great question. And many of you know that I have an organic farm, an organic ranch. I raise organic beef. I raise organic lamb, goat, chicken, honey, crops, you name it. I am an organic fanatic. In fact, I love the term beyond organic. However, because of the bone broth protein ingredient and the amount that we use, there is currently none available that's organic. And while I absolutely agree with the question or comment that chicken is something you should consume organic, because I care about consumers and starting with my own family, I put bone broth protein through more rigorous testing than any product I've ever formulated. That included the organic proteins that I formulated in the past. So get this. While bone broth protein is not organic, bone broth protein has lower amounts of heavy metals, so lead, mercury, cadmium, and aluminum, significantly less than almost every organic ingredient we tested. That includes wheatgrass juice, flaxseed, turmeric, green tea, holy basil, etc. So extraordinarily low levels, in fact, undetectable mercury and cadmium. The lead levels were barely there, and many remember that the organic rice proteins have been shown to be very high in lead and mercury and cadmium. So that's really, really great. Then we tested for pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, and we found either undetectable or extremely low levels. And then we tested for antibiotic residues and found undetectable levels across the board. So I don't disagree that organic is best, but when it comes to bone broth, you are not getting levels of harmful contaminants in the product. Now, we're working on some great new things to improve the animal welfare and the product in general, but bone broth protein is as clean a product as you can get. I typically eat organic, either certified or local unsprayed, with everything, but bone broth protein is so beneficial, I was willing to, after testing it, believe it. And keep this in mind. Not only did we test it for what it doesn't have, but we tested it for what it does. And it's about 16,000 milligrams of collagen, mostly type 2 per serving, which is off the charts. 1,250 plus milligrams of chondroitin, which is above the clinical level. 100 milligrams of glucosamine, and 650 milligrams of hyaluronic acid, which is between 4 and 6 capsules worth, plus potassium, and about a third of the sodium is bone broth. So this is a very clean product. It does not have barely any levels of anything toxic or etc., and less than you'd find in every organic food we tested. So I know that says a lot. When we buy organic, we sort of look the other way and think there's no chemicals. I have theories on why this is the case, but for now, you can take bone broth protein, multiple servings a day, and feel really great about it.
Great answer. And his reply back to you, Dr. Tossi, says, awesome and thank you. So very, very good. Deb?
Great. Thank you. Jordan, the next question centers around the protocols that are found in the Bone Broth Breakthrough book. A couple of questions in one here. Should they be used in sequence? You doing one or both of the 3-day protocols, then go to the 7, then to the 30? Which one is most effective for healing the gut? Is one better than another for healthy weight loss? Just specific ways to use the protocols.
I think, Deb, because this Google Hangout is really centered around practitioners, I would say that there's no wrong way to do this. I do believe that if you have a patient that is extremely sensitive and you want to go on a cleanse program where they're only consuming bone broth, that's certainly not a bad idea. I think the 7 and the 30 days are both great. They're all interchangeable. These were made to be tailored. The key is eat an overall healthful diet and try to get 1, 2, or 3 servings of bone broth protein a day, because remember, we've been imbalanced for so long in amino acids. We're missing these connective tissues, skin, hair, nails, joints, ligaments, tendons, and bone-building nutrients, gut-repairing nutrients, joint repairing. We need to consume a lot of it, and you will see great results, I believe, between 4 and 30 days. So constructing these programs, whether it's back-to-back, some people start with an easier and go to a more stringent. Some do it differently. And what I can say, Deb, I'll explain something that we're working on in the future to add to the mix. We have something that is going to kick off here in the winter called the Bone Broth Body Challenge. And what we're going to do is we're going to encourage people to consume 3 servings a day of bone broth protein, or if you want to consume some bone broth, certainly go ahead. Here's what we do. It involves what science calls intermittent fasting. I like the term circadian nutrition. It is a pretty awesome term because you're eating with the times that the body functions as well. So here's what I do often. I consume 3 servings of bone broth protein during the day, and that's all I consume. I do it in water, but you can mix it in juices. You could use coconut milk, almond milk, macadamia nut milk, dairy milk if you choose to do it. My wife loves chocolate bone broth protein and raw milk. You can mix it in smoothies, but you're going to be liquid during the day until about 4 o'clock. And at 4 o'clock, you start eating, and you eat for 4 to 6 hours. So you're eating between 4 and 8 or 4 and 10. Now you can also start a little later and go from 6 to 10. That window of time, even if you are consuming just the same amount of calories you consume outside of that time, I believe you're going to, in about 3 weeks, lose approximately 10 pounds. That could be the same amount of calories. What you're doing is, in the daytime, you're cleansing the body while you're rebuilding certain structures. And then when it's time to be social, when it's time to relax, you're eating till your heart's content. And you don't have to count calories. You don't have to portion. And bottom line, if you're busy, especially if you're practicing, meals often are rushed. They're not enjoyed. I know my daytime meals can be very busy. I'm emailing, texting. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. I love to eat at the end of the day to my heart's content. I eat a great diet, but when I do that, I absolutely accelerate fat burning and detoxification and repair of the body. It really is a phenomenal program. So any of the programs in Bone Broth Breakthrough are amazing, and if you want to do something specifically around fat burning, weight loss, performance enhancement, I would encourage you to follow what I just discussed, which we're calling the Bone Broth Body Challenge. And we're going to do a lot more education on that here in the future.
Awesome. I have another live question for you here, Jordan. He says, did I miss the grams of protein or amino acids? Many of us DCs work out a lot, ! I need protein for muscle recuperation. I know Dr. Zaino uses it, and he's a heavy bodybuilder as well. But what are your thoughts on that?
There are 20 grams of protein per serving of bone broth protein, and you got to trust me on this. If you will replace your supplemental protein, now if you're consuming 200 grams of protein a day supplementally, I'm not going to tell you to do 10 scoops of bone broth, but I would also tell you not to do 10 scoops of anything. I really believe we get too much protein. That's probably for another program. I think we're going to understand that consuming additional dietary protein is hard on the liver, and it is a expensive, inefficient form of fuel because that's what happens to it. We can't use it all. That being said, you can easily consume 3, if not up to 5, if you're super intense with your workouts, servings of bone broth protein a day. You're getting 20 grams of protein, but you're also getting collagen, glucosamine, chondroitin, hyaluronic acid. You can dump your collagen, your gelatin, many of your protein supplements, and don't even dump them. Put them in your cabinet or your cupboard or pantry. Give this a try for 3 to 6 weeks. You'll forget about them. But I do think that athletes that I speak with, when they're injured, occasionally it's muscle soreness, occasionally it's a muscle tear, but almost always we're talking about elbow ligaments. We're talking about knee ligaments and tendons. We're talking about shoulder joints, hip joints. You know this better than anybody. This is what's keeping athletes out of the game and us regular people out of the gym. So if you're athletic and consume 3 servings of bone broth protein a day, instead of all other protein powders, I promise you, you will never go back.
Awesome. Good stuff. We do have another question. I'm sorry, Deb, I kind of jump in there with these questions, but it says, this one's interesting. So Jordan, how do you feel about the use of whey water, Cero Gold, he has in parentheses, I'm not sure what that is, as a gut prep for healing the gut? Do you recommend that in conjunction with bone broth protein?
Well, I think this question comes from someone who it sounds like is following the Dr. Pompa protocol, and what he typically says is bone broth is first, because what bone broth does, believe it or not, is it actually boosts your probiotics, not because it has probiotics, not even because it's a prebiotic, because it helps to starve the germs. So you're getting a gut boosting effect. So once you get going on that, adding cultured whey, Suero Vive or Suero Gold, is a great addition to bone broth protein if you are a consumer of dairy. Absolutely great. Now, many people choose not to consume dairy. They don't want to consume soy. They are on a low-carb, paleo-type diet, gluten-free. That's where bone broth protein thrives. Suero Vive and Suero Gold are amazing for their electrolytes. Bone broth protein is the protein powder that you can take before, during, and after, because it's even got electrolytes, the equivalent of 2 bottles of sports drinks. How cool is that? But Suero is absolutely amazing as an adjunct to bone broth protein if you are willing to consume dairy, and it's got probiotics, which is an added bonus.
Awesome. Would it be okay if I go ahead and post a link below here? Deb, any thoughts on that, or want to discuss that?
Sure. No, that's fine. Just one really quick follow-up question for Jordan, and
Okay.
you kind of covered this again, but it's an add-on to the protocols. Someone was wanting to know if their patients want to do the 7 or the 30-day protocol and they don't necessarily want to make the recipes in the book, is it okay to just eat other clean food? And you pretty much said yes, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're just trying to make it easy and give suggestions. There's 57 recipes. I know that there's a commercial that says there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. A lot of us would argue with that, but there really is no wrong way to take bone broth protein. I don't recommend eating it out of the container, but we were driving, a friend of mine and there was a bottle of bone broth protein in the back, and their son was eating it out of the container. And of course, that can be a choking hazard, so don't try that at home or in the car. But there really is no wrong way to do it. Just get it in. One of my favorite consuming practices, I would say, is first thing in the morning, put bone broth protein turmeric in a shaker cup, warm it, and sip on it. I'm not a coffee drinker. If I was, I'd put bone broth protein in my coffee, but that's a great morning drink to get you up, to get you limber, to mobilize you, and bone broth protein and turmeric combined are just absolutely awesome. So you can follow any dietary program incorporating bone broth protein just as you would another protein powder, but it's so much more versatile. Add it in your veggies, add it in your grains, add it to your bone broth to boost it and not have to cook it for 24 or 36 hours. Key is, though, consistency. You'll get better results the more you use it. The results aren't going to wear off. They're going to crescendo, and you're going to see healthier skin. You're going to see faster growing and harder nails. You're going to just feel more limber. I really expect over the next few months the testimonials are going to pour in. This is only about 9 or 10 weeks old, so it really is a brand new product, and it is kind of cool that this is the first ever protein powder from bone broth.
It's very cool, and as long as you mention turmeric, I have to share my favorite way to use that one. I do just one twist of organic black pepper into it and a shake or two of organic pumpkin pie spices in the turmeric bone broth protein. I only have that because I made one pumpkin pie last at Christmas time, but if you don't have pumpkin pie spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, anything like that really goes well with that turmeric bone broth.
Awesome. I love it. Well, as we kind of wind down into the close, I want everybody to know that I've posted a link below this live video. You can look down into the live chat. It's ancientnutrition.com/retailer shop. And so I don't know if this is to Deb or to Jordan, but if you guys, I know if we click on that, we're taken to a link where we can enter our information and tell us a little bit about what is that link and what is it as we fill out that information, what are we filling it out for?
Sure. That link will actually allow you to set up your wholesale account if you don't have one set up already. What you want to have ready before you do that is just a cell phone photo of either your license, or if you can't find your license readily available, just take a quick picture of your diploma on the wall, and you'll need to attach that photo during the process of creating the wholesale account. And that then will allow you to create an online account and purchase product as well. If you have any questions at all, I think you have my email address there as well, Dr. Tabor, posted.
Yes.
If you'd like me to send you a copy of the volume discounts and the actual price per canister, the opening order, there's a really sweet discount with just an order of 24 canisters or more with a full 30% off of the wholesale prices. So phenomenal. The other thing we've got going on right now is the second print run of the book, The Bone Broth Breakthrough, is now available for shipping by early next week. And we'd love to give you a complimentary case of 32 books with your opening order. I want to get that to you before the books fly out of the warehouse again like they did the first time. So let us know when you're, as soon as you're ready to get the wholesale account set up. If you'd like to do it over the phone with me, it's quick, easy. We know you're busy, and we keep it pretty simple for you. This is the bone broth protein, the pure version. Got a copy of the book here as well, Bone Broth Breakthrough, just outstanding quality. You look like a hero when you're able to give these to your patients along with purchasing the bone broth protein. Just a really, really great perk, $20 value for the books. You get 32 free, and after that we make it super affordable to keep them around.
Wow. So let me just recap and make sure that I have this right, even just listening to that. So first of all, you guys only let the practitioners, obviously, or doctors become resellers, it seems like. Is that the reason why we have to put our license or a photo of our diploma?
Pretty close. Health food stores,
Yep.
Select health stores have it, some fitness centers, and practitioners, basically. But that's why we need it, just to know and have on file that you're legitimate.
So that's good to know. And then secondly, there's not an obligation once you become a reseller. Like they're filling that out right now. They don't have to hit buy now. That's an application to actually become a reseller and then purchase. And then lastly, from what I got from that, you're going to give 32 recipe books away with their first order. Is that correct?
Correct. You've got it.
Wow. Well, phenomenal. What's that?
It is phenomenal. And we do have ongoing discounts as well based on volume purchases. That first order, though, again, just a really great deal. And we have to thank Jordan Rubin for that with just an order of 24 canisters, mix and match any of the 4 varieties that you like, a full 30% off of the wholesale price. So a really great way to get started. Most people actually want to do more than 24 because it's the only time you can get that deep of a discount without a much larger order.
Right, and Deb, just to chime in, I know that there's a lot of numbers we're throwing at you, but it's not 30% off the retail price, it's 30% off the wholesale price. So wholesale is already 40% off, so you're getting 30% additional. This is really a great opportunity, and we're seeing doctors bring the product in and reorder 2 days later. It's been amazing. The product hits the shelf, and they're already recommending it to people. They're already thinking of people that need it. It's great for kids. It's great for the elderly. It's great for athletes, and it's great for everybody in between. It really is the ultimate age-defying internal beauty product as well. And so it's got a lot of unique benefits, not because it's a miracle, because it's missing. This is a missing secret to our health. We don't get enough of it. Our ancestors did. Therefore, we're deficient. And I believe that everyone who consumes the nutrients in bone broth, now let me be clear, it's bone broth. It's not about this one product. It's bone broth. You will benefit. I believe bone broth consumption in America, if it went up through making your own, buying frozen or bone broth protein, you'll have significant results. And let's also mention one quick thing. Making bone broth is expensive and time consuming, we know that. Even I won't do it. Buying it, the right kind, is about $10 a bag, frozen bag. Bone broth protein at full retail is $2.25 a serving for the equivalent of 2 to 3 cups of homemade bone broth. That's really a good value.
Absolutely, it's a great value. And I know I've mentioned this to you before, Jordan, even the four-legged friends love it. My little teddy bear puppy loves his pure bone broth protein.
Awesome.
Yeah, they like it better than humans, and they don't complain as much, and the results are great. But yeah, we've got to do a bone broth protein for pets, but in the meantime, either pure or turmeric in their water, mixed in their food, amazing. And they are more deficient in these nutrients than humans are because that's all they're really supposed to eat in their diet. So really great for animals of any kind, I should say, omnivorous or carnivorous animals. You don't want to give it necessarily to your goat or your sheep or your cow, but pretty much anything else, or your horse, anything else can work.
Nice.
Great.
Well, I know we've probably got some animal chiropractors on here too, so that's good for them to know. The last question, I don't know, this might be a quick answer, but Ryan, he says, does wholesale work for student docs also? Would you allow a student doctor to purchase?
Why don't you email me,
okay,
and we'll check into that.
Okay. Yeah.
If the student doctor is looking to start selling it to some other students or others, patients, if they're in clinic already, I'm sure we could work something out.
Okay, great. I just posted below there, guys. You'll see I posted the link again to ancientnutrition.com/retailer shop. And then below that, you'll see questions or assistance. Contact Deb, and her email address, even her phone number is on there as well. So, guys, I just want to thank you all for being on here tonight. What a great show. Jordan, phenomenal answers. I mean, you can just tell you know your stuff when it comes to this. So we really appreciate you being on, and you guys have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.